Greetings everyone, Jeremy Sutton from PrecisionPrinciple.com here in Makloganj, India on day 16 of the intensive Ashtanga yoga training. Yesterday we continued with the physiology and anatomy class, and today I'd like to pick it up from there. Now, we've finished the digestive system. We talked about the importance of light meals and how this constitutes a sattvic diet, the yogic diet. The main argument there is that light foods, principally vegetarian in style, keep the body processing food quickly and lightly, which keeps the brain also light and clear. And of course, clarity is one of the points of the full yogic lifestyle. Now, personally, you're free to eat whatever you'd like. I'm not recommending a vegetarian diet necessarily. I personally am not a vegetarian, though I do prefer a diet that's light in meat when possible. But today we are going to continue on. We will talk a little bit about the skeleton, the skeletal system, but most importantly today we're going to talk about the connective tissues and some potential vulnerable points in a yogic practice, how we can undermine our practice, and the importance of awareness in sort of combating or confronting those problems harmoniously. So first off, this skeleton. I'm not going to go into the 206 bones of the body like we did in our class, but let's just focus on a few highlights, and that is that our skeleton is a work of art. What an amazing structure that we have been given, or that we have grown, however you want to think about it. And there are some important parts, right? We have 206 bones, and these bones are connected, and some of the connections are more vulnerable than others, right? In particular, we have our joints, right? When we're talking about connective tissues, we're really talking about ligaments, tendons, and cartilage, all right? Among those things, our ligaments and our tendons are the most vulnerable, all right? That is for a couple reasons. In particular, these connective tissues don't get a lot of blood flow. So if we damage those tissues, it can take a very long time to heal. It can take months, it can take years. Because, for example, if I hurt my elbow or if I hurt my knee, it's difficult to just stop practicing for 6 months. Most of us don't have the luxury of being able to kind of wait around for our knees to heal because life is happening. We got to take care of that while we go. So some of these injuries can be particularly pernicious. They can keep going for a long time and affect everything we do. Right? So we really need to keep care of our joints. All right? Now, the mind plays a very important role in this care for our joints. And the reason is that maybe it's best explained with an example. Now think of any time that you felt especially stressed or overworked. How do we feel? We feel tight, we feel closed, we feel constricted. We've talked about in the pranayama lessons that our breathing gets shortened, irregular, and all of that jazz. And so all of this creates a sort of constriction, all right? Now in the asana practice, in the posture practice, we're working on expanding the different muscles and expanding the limits of our present body, and doing so in a healthy way, right? But in order to stretch appropriately, I need to be in a relaxed state. That is, I can't relax a muscle that's constricted, right? So if I'm in a stressed out mind state, if I'm in an unfocused mind state, then what happens? I'm feeling this contraction, and these contractions are putting limits on how far I can rotate, how far I can extend in each pose. So the connection between mind and body is important. And not only because of this constricted feeling, but also because of stress, generally speaking, right? A lack of awareness is one of the key aspects of stress, and in order to confront that, awareness in the present moment is our main ally. At least this is the argument of yogis and modern writers such as Eckhart Tolle. The Dalai Lama also will propose a similar treatment for such stressful situations. And in particular, we can use the breathing to bring us back to the present, to focus. So when we focus, we relax. And in this relaxed, focused state, we are in the best position to take full advantage of the efficiency of our yoga practice. And in particular, if I'm contracted, then I won't be able to twist or do my stretches appropriately. And in such a state, I'm most likely to put extra strain on my joints. And the joints, of course, are the weakest part of the body. They're the most vulnerable points. You lose a joint, you are in trouble. Ask anybody who has weak knees, who's had multiple knee surgeries, multiple hip surgeries, and shoulder problems. You don't realize how amazing shoulders and knees are until you can't use them anymore, and then you realize that, wow, I feel like I'm pretty debilitated if I can't use this correctly. So the best cure is a good preventative strategy, and that's what yoga presents for us. All right? So take a quick look. It's really important to know the difference between good pain and bad pain, because while we're in these positions, these different asanas, of course we're going to feel a little bit of discomfort. That's the point. If you're going to the edge of your limits and then leaning into your edge, leaning into your limits, so to speak, leaning into your leading edge. I think that's a phrase I think Kelly Starrett, the physical trainer, likes to use. It's a good metaphor of how we got to find where our edge is and then kind of lean into that so we can kind of keep moving that boundary a little bit back so we can expand our comfort zone. Because the wider our comfort zone, the more capable we are going to be, the more focused we're going to be in a wider number of situations. In particular, in these body situations, we're talking about leaning into our front edge of our muscles, into each posture so that we can go a little bit farther, right? So when we lean into the edge of our muscles, we're gonna feel some discomfort, and at times it's gonna be even painful. So how can we tell the difference between a good pain or a bad pain, right? That's a key question. So as Dr. Amrita, our teacher of anatomy and physiology, has explained, the definition of the good pain is a pain that you feel while in the stretch that happens in the center of the bulk of the muscle, right? So that means if I'm doing a hamstring stretch and I'm leaning forward with my straight back and I can feel it, it's going to be pretty intense because the hamstrings tend to be tight muscles for those of us in the Western civilization. Me in particular, as a basketball player and athlete, runners, are going to find tight hamstrings, right? So I lean into that leading edge, into the hamstring, and I feel tension, right? Now, if I feel the tension in the deep part of my hamstring, this is good pain because it's a discomfort, it's uncomfortable, but I'm right in the heart of the most tension. I'm starting to stretch out that spot, right? Bad pain, however, let's say I'm in that same forward fold and I feel my knee. I feel the pain inside the joint. This, however, is bad pain because the joints, if you are not meant to stretch. These ligaments, these tendons are not meant to stretch. We get these out of place, we start to cause damage here, and we are going to be in trouble for a while. So it's important to know that if you feel the pain in the muscle, that is okay. But as soon as you start feeling pain inside the joints, you need to take it back, right? Now this is where ego comes back into the game because we all want to be flexible. I look at Vijay, the incredible instructor for our classes, and he's doing handstands and holding himself up and bringing his legs through and landing in a perfect forward fold seated position without touching his legs as he brings it through. And I think to myself, wow, I would love to be able to do that. I would love to be as good as he is at this, right? This is a comparison already. Now, how do I alleviate the gap between, I want to be like him, but right now I'm only right here. How do I bridge that gap? Well, maybe I try to practice really hard, right? Maybe I push myself beyond my limits. Now there's a difference between leaning into your edge and blowing past your limits, right? If you blow past your limits, you're going to cause damage. You're going to cause pain. And if I'm really in an egoic state of mind and I'm trying to get to where he is as fast as possible and I don't really pay attention, I just focus on the goal but I don't have any awareness of the limits of my present body, what happens? That's how I push past my limits too far. That's how I don't pay attention to the type of pain I'm feeling. That's where I cause potential damage that actually slows my progress in the long run. Of course, yoga is a long-term path, so we need to take consistent effort. It's about the daily return to the practice. It's about just getting back up on the horse, stepping back on the mat, getting focused once again. We'll make a little bit of progress every single day, right? And that is really the engine of success, not only in yoga, but in anything. If you want to get good at anything, you need to make that return to the practice, day in, day out. In, I think, who is it? In the War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, in the War of Art, he argues, that we feel resistance whenever we come back to he's talking about creative practices, such as writing, such as drawing, painting, art, sculpture, whatever your creative practice is. But he's also talking about anything where you feel resistance, where you feel like, oh no, I know I should go practice now, but I have resistance to going back to practicing. I know I should do this. There's part of me that says I ought to, but there's this other part of me that has resistance to that thing that I should do, right? And his thesis, his argument for that book is that you just got to return to the practice. You got to get back up on the horse. You got to go back to it. Even if the quality of work today isn't as good as it was yesterday, or if it's the worst you've ever done, it doesn't matter. It's about getting back on the horse, getting back to the practice, making consistent effort, and through that consistent effort, you develop the discipline and the mind state, that refined state of self-mastery, where we have the potential to reach those handstands like VJ's doing. Those amazing handstands and those legs coming through. And it may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, but that's not the point. If we keep coming back to it diligently, with mindfulness, then that's how we're going to make the most efficient progress. And ultimately, if you want to get to the point of a handstand and whatnot, you can only make so much gains in one way. So we make the maximum gains by bringing awareness to the practice while we do it every single day, coming back to it. So those are some of the main points about how the mind and the body are related and how to prevent injury. And lastly, before I sign out here, I'd like to talk about some of the main common injuries that yogis are apt to experience, right? As you might guess, based on what we've talked about previously, this joint pain is basically the number one problem. The way that we damage our joints and the myriad of ways that we might do that is the most dangerous, are the most dangerous obstacles to our practice, right? We talked about obstacles to progress previously, Patanjali's 9 obstacles, and the number one is physical injury and illness, right? So we want to avoid these. So on the more severe side, we have ligament tears, we have tendon tears, of course, tendinitis, which is essentially the inflammation of the tendon that happens over prolonged practice. This is some common examples of this is tennis elbow. People playing tennis all the time, they start to strain the joints in their elbow. That takes a long time to heal. Ask a tennis player. Sometimes they put little bands there on the arm, but does that really fix the problem? No, it just tries to alleviate the pain while we're there. But this type of tendinitis is pernicious. It doesn't go away, and it's a problem once it arrives. So we're going to avoid that. Sprains, we have, muscle cramps, strains of the muscles, and basically a number of problems that refer to too much pressure on the joints all the time. So we need to be aware of this. We need to be listening to our body when we feel the symptoms of maybe some of these problems coming on. It's important to take a step back and ease up a little bit. Don't let the ego push you too forward to the point of injury. As Kelly Starrett has mentioned, you need to pay attention to the leading indicators. We have leading indicators and lagging indicators, right? A leading indicator, for example, he refers to the analogy of a car. You're driving your car and you notice that maybe your transmission's not shifting quite as smoothly as it was before, or you're starting to feel like a little bit of a shake because maybe your chassis is not quite in alignment, right? These are leading indicators. So you might feel that and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take my car to the shop, get it tuned up so I can fix these problems before they become major problems. What's a major problem? These are the lagging indicators. Well, I was driving down the road and I had a major malfunction of my brakes. I had a major malfunction of my tires, and that caused actual damage. I couldn't stop in time, and then I had an actual accident, right? That accident is an indicator of the diminishing quality of the brakes in the first place. Had we taken care of the brakes up front, first time we heard that little squeaky, the brake pads have deteriorated, we hear that little squeak for the first time, wait a minute, I need to get back, switch my brake pads, or even if before that my brakes aren't as responsive as they used to be, maybe even now it's time to get them fixed. Coming back to the analogy of the body, when we have leading indicators, I might feel, you know what, my knee is feeling a little bit tender right now. That's a leading indicator that maybe I'm practicing too hard. I'm maybe feeling a little bit too much in my elbow or my shoulder. I need to maybe stop practicing all those jump throughs because I'm starting to cause damage to my shoulder and I'm not quite there yet. So maybe I need to step back, maybe I need to take some time off, I need to build some strength in my shoulders, I need to do whatever I need to do to get up to par so that I can practice healthily in the future. So we're talking about leading indicators and lagging indicators. If you pay attention to the leading indicators, it takes awareness, it takes mindfulness and presence to just notice the sensations as they arise in the body. Lagging indicators are, oops, I didn't pay attention to it, and now I just blew out my knee, and now I need to take the next 6 months off with no practice, and just to get back to a place where I can step back on the mat with confidence and not be distracted. So that is the essence of what we're talking about. Taking care of the body, especially the joints, because the joints are the most vulnerable parts of the body, and just being aware of our limits, leading into our edge, being aware of the good pain, the pain that's in the muscles, that's helping the muscles stretch while we're going, and the bad pain, that pain that's deep within the joints, the pain that is probably a leading indicator of potentially future problems if I'm not careful about these joints. And by paying attention to those leading indicators, by using the practice as a challenge of mindfulness, as a practice of mindfulness, a lens to bring me back to the present, this helps me avoid long-term potential problems and ultimately make progress as quickly as possible. So pay attention to these things and you really will get to the place that you want to get to as quickly as possible. Maybe it's not as fast as your ego would hope it gets you there. However, there is an actual maximum efficiency. You can only move so fast. So through this awareness, we take the fastest route possible, which tends to be the slow, steady route by coincidence, or by perhaps paradox. The slow, steady route is the fast route. Don't look for shortcuts, don't hurt yourself, and in the meantime, take care of yourself. So keep learning, keep growing. If you like these videos, click subscribe below, and have a great day.